Are you noticing certain unhealthy patterns in your relationships? It's like you keep running into the same problems that sabotage your connections with others. Maybe you struggle with insecurity or with opening up to others or even trusting people. Maybe you fear closeness or you struggle with assuming the worst case scenarios. I'm here to tell you that there's a way out of these toxic cycles. In this video, we'll deeply break down your attachment style to help you learn how to heal it for more fulfilling relationships with others and with yourself. By the end, you'll have a completely different outlook on relationships and on your potential.
Veda.
A lot of you need to hear this message and this video because I don't think a lot of people are aware of how their attachment style truly operates and the given tendencies they exhibit in their romantic relationships or just relationships as a whole, because your attachment style doesn't just affect how you operate in romantic relationships, it affects how you operate in your friendships, in your work relationships as well. In this video, the primary focus will be romantic relationships, but a lot of the insights you're going to gain from this video can be applicable for many areas of your life. I'm going to break down the 4 attachment styles: secure attachment style, and then the ones in the insecure pool, which includes avoidant, anxious, and disorganized. There's going to be a lot of great quotes in this video, a lot of insights that you can take with you and approaches you can do in order to heal your attachment style, especially if you find yourself in the insecure side of things for the most part. And what I mean by heal your attachment style, I just mean you evolve it to be healthier, you evolve it to be closer to the secure category of things. And in this video, you're going to see why it's super important that you do so, because people with the secure attachment styles operate in certain ways that make their relationships a lot healthier than those with more insecure attachment styles. I'll also give examples and a lot of examples from my life as well throughout the process. Now, before I get into this definition, I gotta say, I love Warheads so much. I'm gonna have some of these when I finish this video, and this is not a sponsorship, but I love these candies. So good. Okay, let's define attachment styles specifically. Quote, attachments or types reflect how you behave in a romantic relationship and are based on the emotional connection you formed as an infant with your primary caregiver, often your mother. According to attachment theory pioneered by British psychiatrist John Bowlby and American psychologist Mary Ainsworth, the quality of the bonding you experience during this first relationship often determines how well you relate to other people and respond to intimacy throughout your life. That makes a lot of sense, especially the part where it says that it's primarily your connection with your mother. I think that makes so much sense because when you're born, your mother kind of helps you with the process. And when you come into the world, first eyes you lay on is your mom. The first person that carries you is your mother. The mother just has this very innate connection with the child that is almost so difficult to replicate. Not to say a child's attachment style isn't also affected by the father, because it is, but the mother's love and the mother's nurturing can do so much for a child and how a child feels safe in communicating their needs and feels safe in the world as well. Continuing on, quote, if your primary caretaker made you feel safe and understood as an infant, if they were able to respond to your cries and accurately interpret your changing physical and emotional needs, then you likely developed a successful, secure attachment. As an adult, that usually translates to being self-confident, trusting, and hopeful, with an ability to healthily manage conflict, respond to intimacy, and navigate the ups and downs of romantic relationships. I want to make a caveat that in this video, it's not just going to be talking about parents. Of course, our parents had a big effect on our attachment style, but we're a little bit more complex than that. There's more factors at play. There's genetics, there's friendships, there's our temperaments, our basic personality, how we interpret things. There's these other things also at play when it comes to our attachment style being what it is. So I do want to say that, but yes, parents do have an effect. And a big thing about attachment styles is not just how things happen when you were an infant, but also how things were when you were a child. And you could even say up until the teenage years, because you're still developing at that point. Like, how safe did you feel communicating your needs to others? You know, if you would communicate your needs, but you would always get yelled at, that may lead to you shutting down, and that may lead to you being more avoidant with sharing your needs and sharing what you're thinking and feeling. Whereas maybe you have a sibling and their personality is just slightly different. You grew up in the same environment, but when they get yelled at for communicating their needs, it makes them still communicate their needs, but they do it in a very anxious way. They feel so much anxiety as they do it. They don't shut down like you did, but they feel a lot of anxiety moving forward. So they may develop a certain anxious attachment style where they kind of seek validation. They still communicate their needs, but they're always seeking validation and they're always trying to get in somebody else's good graces. And that's why you have to understand that, like, I don't subscribe to this argument that, or sometimes parents make this argument where they're like, oh, well, we raised your sibling and they came out this way. Oh, I raised them and they came out this way. Why are you like this? Which is super disrespectful when or if they do that. But that's an ignorant statement, because your children, although they share the same biology, they don't have the same personalities. They don't have the same interpretations. I love my mother, amazing woman, very strong woman. But she wasn't the best at communicating. A lot of times she would communicate in a very irrational way, very emotionally driven. And my brother and I consume this communication differently. Like, my brother, he was just able to just take it for what it was, and it didn't really affect him as much. He was kind of able to joke with it. Whereas me, it wasn't very well received. So it got to a point where I kind of had this mistrust in communicating my needs. I wanted to always do things myself. I wanted to not burden others. And that developed an avoidant attachment within me. Infants, and I'll also say kids/teenagers, with insecure attachment often grow into adults who have difficulty understanding their own emotions and feelings of others, limiting their ability to build or maintain stable relationships. As an adult with an insecure attachment style, you may find it difficult to connect to others, shy away from intimacy, or to be clingy, fearful, or anxious in your relationship. In other words, you have an insecure attachment style. Absolutely, but understand that this is not a personality type. Like, yes, your personality is a factor here, but it's a certain series of behaviors you do that kind of labels that attachment style. So I don't want you to think that you have a life sentence to your given attachment style, right? Like, there are people that had great upbringings, developed very secure attachment styles, but they just found themselves in very toxic relationships, leading them to becoming more maybe disorganized or anxious, afterwards because of those relationships. And vice versa, there are people that have developed very avoidant or anxious attachment styles or disorganized, and then they found a loving partner, they, got help with their attachment style, they worked on themselves, they worked on their communication, and then now they're very secure, so I definitely fall under that umbrella. Do I have some instances of the avoidant attachment style still at play? Yes, but throughout the years, I've worked on myself to a point where I'm very secure within. I'm better at emotional communication. I'm better at listening. I'm better at communicating my needs. And I'm really proud of myself for that. And if you want to get to that point, this video is going to help a lot. And you're going to understand the things, you can focus on to achieve that. So John Bowlby was the pioneer of this attachment style whole theory thing. And it has been one of the best models for understanding relationships. Quote, Bowlby believed that how individuals are treated by significant others across lifespan, especially during times of stress, shapes the expectations, attitudes, and beliefs they have about future partners and relationships. These expectancies, attitudes, and beliefs operate as, quote, if-then propositions that guide how people think, feel, and behave, especially when they are upset. For example, if I am upset, then I can count on my partner to support me. Once developed, working models guide how individuals relate to their close partners and the interpersonal world around them, especially in stressful, threatening situations. That's powerful. And it goes back to what I said earlier about how attachment styles can change. If you have a certain bond that is riddled with poor communication, shouting, a lot of arguments, a lot of name calling, you're not going to feel safe connecting. You're going to go from someone that feels safe sharing their needs to not feeling safe. So what happens in the next relationship is you carry that trauma or that trauma response over, and whenever it's time for you to communicate your needs, that old memory comes up. And that's going to be a very stressful situation for you. Like I said earlier, the attachment categories can be categorized into the secure pool, secure attachment, and the insecure pool, which are the other three I described. So inside the secure pool, which is obviously the secure attachment style, people with secure attachment styles are able to share their feelings. They're able to talk about what they're thinking. They're able to communicate. They're able to listen. They're able to be there for others. They're able to have like this emotional bandwidth of, I am here to listen to you. We're in this together. Instead of being like, I don't feel safe. One thing I always tell people, like on my calls and in my videos, is that you don't have to go through this journey yourself. Meaning, you don't have to wait until you're secure, you're in a secure attachment style in order to get into a relationship. I say that because the relationship itself will show you so many blind spots about you that you didn't even know. And that can be healing in and of itself, especially if you're with somebody that is secure or that knows a couple things that can help you get better at communicating. At the same time, you do have to like listen, and you do have to make sure you're doing your best to be very present and to improve yourself. But you don't have to be this like, because sometimes people do this. They're like, oh, I'm gonna wait for like 10 years when I'm like really have this secure attachment before I get into a relationship. No, there's gonna be things and there's gonna be conflicts in the relationship. There's gonna be situations that help you have firsthand experience in developing a very secure attachment. For example, if you're very anxious, like you feel like you always need to communicate and talk to your partner all the time. Let's say you're a hardcore texter and you're in a relationship with this person and you're texting them and they don't text back for a while. They don't text back for a couple hours. That's your opportunity to work on that anxiousness. That's your opportunity to work on your assumptions. That's your opportunity to work on your fears, to work on your catastrophizing, your future projections, which I'll talk about later in this video. When you work on that in real time, that's when you truly get better at it. And you're also able to communicate with your partner like, hey, I know this is not on you. This is not your fault. This is just all me. But I want you to know that when I don't hear back from you, it's how I start to think. This is how I start to think. And again, you're telling them that this is not all on them because they can be genuinely busy. It would be toxic for you to be like, why aren't you texting back? You know? So that's the thing right there. Quote, the importance of attachment affects more than just future healthy relationships. It also impacts a child's ability to self-regulate. When an infant's needs are met by a nurturing primary caregiver, the infant's emotional dysregulation is calmed. Over many repetitions of an infant feeling stress, expressing distress, and receiving a nurturing response, the child is able to integrate this pattern as self-soothing during stressful times. This is important as the child matures into an adult who is able to handle disappointments, opposition, and stressful situations by remaining regulated. Great quote. Now let's talk about the insecure pool, and soon I'm going to break down each one individually and talk about how to heal each of those individually in this insecure pool. So if you have an insecure attachment style, you may tend to become needy or clingy in your closest relationships. You may behave in selfish or manipulative ways when feeling vulnerable, in order to get love, in order to maybe get attention and appreciation. Or you may simply shy away from intimacy altogether, which is like an avoidant personality archetype, because you want to be self-reliant. You don't want to feel like you're imposing yourself too much or you're being too needy, because if you feel needy, you feel like you might be abandoned, because in the past maybe you got abandoned for being needy. A lot of macho guys are actually like this, where they're actually avoidant out of fear because maybe they've gotten their hearts broken, or maybe you're a woman and you're avoidant because in the past you've just gotten hurt, and that's okay. That's the process of finding the right people, for the right person for you. You're gonna meet people that just aren't a fit for various reasons, and someone's gonna get hurt in the process. It's not always intentional too. Some situations just, they don't work out, even if you want them to. And this can lead to wounds, but you still have to work on those wounds so that they don't affect the future situation, especially when that future situation could be the right situation for you, so that you don't sabotage it. Now, for parents, one thing I want you to understand is, again, attachments can be very nuanced. So here's a quote. There are many reasons why even a loving, conscientious parent may not be successful at creating a secure attachment bond with their child. The causes of your insecure attachment could include having a young or inexperienced caregiver, lacking in the necessary parental skills, your caregiver experienced depression caused by isolation, lack of social support, or hormonal problems, for example, forcing them to withdraw from the caregiving role. A lot of women do struggle with depression after having a baby and whatnot. And sometimes women have this idea of what having kids is like, but then the reality actually hits them and they have the kids and they're like, oh wow, this is a lot different. Like they're kind of coping with that at the same time, kind of raising their child. Another example is your primary caregiver's addiction to alcohol or other drugs reduces their ability to accurately interpret or respond to, physical or emotional needs. Traumatic experiences, such as serious illnesses or accidents, can interrupt the attachment process. Separation from your primary caregiver due to illness, death, divorce, or adoption. Yeah, I mean, that's a big one, I have heard stories of people being more on the avoidant side because they were adopted. I once dated a girl, years ago that like she had a super avoidant attachment style. And that was part of the reason why that situation wasn't right. Like she was an adopted child. And I'm pretty sure there's other factors here, so I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but I could feel that level of avoidance at play due to maybe that being a factor in her being more avoidant. It's important to note that the strength of an attachment is not based solely on the level of parental love or the quality of care an infant receives. Rather, attachment is founded on the verbal and nonverbal emotional communication developed between caregiver and infant. Your mother could love you a lot, your father could love you a lot, but if they weren't the best at picking up on your nonverbal signals, especially when you're younger, and not great at picking up on your verbal signals as you vocalize yourself, then that could lead to an insecure attachment style. But it doesn't mean that your parents didn't love you. And sometimes kids misinterpret, or we misinterpret our parents' love, or we underrate it because they weren't the best at meeting our needs. Sometimes our parents actually did the best that they could. Like their level of doing their best was at an A+, but that just wasn't good enough. And unfortunately, that's life. It doesn't mean that your parents neglected you on purpose all of the time, when it comes to that. And yes, there are cases out there where parents were neglectful, like they didn't take care of their children at all. They didn't care. Now, I'm going to read this next quote, which I kind of disagree with, but I can kind of see the validity in it. And I'll kind of say why I kind of disagree with it. Here's a quote. The success of attachment isn't impacted by socioeconomic factors such as wealth, education, ethnicity, or culture. Neither is having an insecure attachment style as an adult reason to blame all your relationship problems onto your parent. Your personality and intervening experiences during childhood, adolescence, and adult life can also play a role in shaping your attachment style. Now, I disagree with this because this quote kind of contradicts itself, especially when it says ethnicity, culture, education. Well, these are experiences that a child can come into contact with, and these can shape how they relate to others and how they relate to the world. Like if a child is bullied they're gonna feel uncomfortable in their skin, and they're gonna feel uncomfortable maybe relating to certain people, and that could affect in the future how they go about dating. How much money a given person's family makes growing up can affect how they communicate maybe financial struggles in the future, or how they communicate their security needs, so to speak. So these factors are also at play here beyond just the parental factor. Now, where I kind of agree with this quote is in it saying that your personality has an effect on your attachment style, like your basic personality you come into this world with. And also where I kind of agree with the quote is in saying that, yes, there are people that have had great things going on in the external world, but they still developed very insecure attachment styles. They had loving parents, they had the wealthy family, they had a great education, so on and so forth. But something about how they interpret communication, how they absorb maybe criticism, is a lot more sensitive than typical. So that's also where I may see where this quote makes sense. So I'm going to break down the 3 attachment styles. I'm going to talk about how to heal them. First, though, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the secure attachment style. I'll give a couple quotes there so that you understand the North Star here related to healing your attachment style. Like, what does it look like when you do have a more healed attachment style, a more healthy attachment style? As you know, the caregiver responds to the child's needs in positive and consistent, reliable ways. This sends the general message that people are trustworthy and supportive. Those raised in this environment become trusting, empathetic, and responsive towards others. These individuals can easily forgive, set appropriate boundaries, and honor their own and their parents' independence. As a result, these individuals possess a healthy view of themselves and are attuned to their emotions and voice their wants and needs to significant others. These individuals are comfortable with intimacy and not overly preoccupied with their relationship or worried about rejection. Overall, secure attachment style involves low levels of avoidance and low levels of anxiety. I love that. And man, when parents treat their children like the child is their own person, I think that's one of the most powerful ways to parent. I say that because a lot of parents treat their children as just extensions of themselves. They tell their children, you need to be this, you need to act like this, you need to do this, that, and the third. And when you parent in this way, you remove the child's personal sovereignty, the child's personal authority, the child's personal autonomy. And they feel like they're not able to voice their own needs because their needs are being trampled by the needs of the parent or what the parent assumes the child wants. You know, One Tree Hill is one of my favorite freaking shows. Some of you know this, okay? I love One Tree Hill. One Tree Hill is interesting because it shows generationally the difference in parenting. If you're familiar with the show, there's a character named Nathan and his father's name is Dan. And Dan is this like authoritarian father that wants his son to be like him, to go to the NBA and whatnot. And he always tells Nathan what he should want and what he should do. And Nathan's communication with Dan is often of discomfort. There's always this air of like unsafety because Dan is, you could say, a narcissist. In some cases, you could even say he exhibits traits of a sociopath or psychopath, right? But when Nathan eventually has a kid, and spoiler alert for those of you that haven't watched it, whatever, even if you know this, go watch One Tree Hill. Nathan has a kid named Jamie in the future episodes, and the way he parents Jamie is so different. Because he's learned from his experiences with his father, the way he parents Jamie is more of leading to Jamie to develop a more secure attachment. What happens is that Nathan's more patient with Jamie. He asks Jamie, what does he want? And Jamie like verbalizes himself and he feels more safety with Nathan, you know? So it just goes to show you that like parents need to make sure they're asking their children, what do you want? And telling their children that it's okay to verbalize their needs. Now, of course, at the same time, the child needs to be respectful when they're verbalizing their needs. You know, they need to be appreciative. They need to have gratitude. But like, that's so important. That's so important. So the general attitude with the secure attachment pool is, it is easy for me to get close to others and I'm comfortable depending on them and having them depend on me. I don't worry about being abandoned or about someone getting too close to me. So you see this sense of empathy. You see this sense of it's safe. You know, it's safe for us to work on my problems together. It's safe for us to work on your problems together. I'm here for you. I'm going to listen to you. We got this. And there's also this like, I can spend time alone. We can be separate. We can have our own lives going on and we can have our lives together. That's what that secure attachment looks like. If I feel a certain type of way about something, I can bring it up. It's not to say that like people with secure attachments don't get jealous. They do get jealous. But when they feel that jealousy, it's either a jealousy they can self-regulate, or if they can't, they'll go to their partner and they'll be like, hey, I'm feeling like this about this situation. Let's work on it together, you know? And the partner that's also secure, they're like, I hear what you're saying. Thank you for telling me that you feel jealous about that. I'm sorry to hear that. Like, that's what goes on. What doesn't happen is this like blaming or this jumping to conclusions or this getting super defensive. And again, secure people aren't perfect, but what they do really well is they communicate and they have a lot of self-awareness. That's what makes their relationships work so well. I think that's what makes my relationship work so well too, is that we both make very concerted efforts to securely communicate our needs because we feel safe with each other. And that's very healing for the both of us. You know, people that are secure also see their own value. They see their own self-worth. They've worked on their self-esteem. So much to the point that they don't project negativity onto a relationship, because that's what happens. People that maybe if you have an insecure attachment style, like disorganized, avoidant, or anxious, let's say you're an anxious person, you may have low self-esteem. So what you do is you project maybe negativity out to your partner or the relationship as a whole. But truly the problem is rooted in your low self-esteem and how you don't feel great about yourself. So you have to have the self-awareness to realize, oh, this is coming from my low self-esteem. I need to make sure I'm working on my self-esteem. I need to make sure I am valuing myself, taking care of myself, seeing that I'm lovable, I'm beautiful, these types of things. I know we go through changes in life, and life happens sometimes, but we need to keep up practices that remind us how valuable we are, and that boosts our self-esteem. Secure individuals are motivated to manage distress by drawing closer to their partners physically and emotionally to increase closeness and intimacy. This tendency is facilitated by their use of problem-focused coping strategies, which allow them to resolve most problems constructively and well with appropriate assistance from their partners. The attachment behaviors that highly secure individuals enact involve requesting or seeking proximity, comfort, support from their partners, which help them dissipate distress so they can pursue other life tasks. Okay, now let's talk about anxious attachment style, also known as ambivalent attachment style. If you see ambivalent, it's the same thing as anxious. So people with anxious or ambivalent attachment styles tend to be overly needy. As the label suggests, people with this attachment style are often anxious, uncertain, and lacking in self-esteem. They crave emotional intimacy but worry that others don't want to be with them. So it's this constant rumination of, oh, will this person leave me? Does this person still love me? So you constantly seek that reassurance over and over again. What happens is that the caregiver responds inconsistently to the child, sometimes positively responding to their needs and other times ignoring their needs. As a result, the child becomes worried and uncertain about whether their needs will be met. In adulthood, their needs tend to frequently change and they expect their partners to anticipate and meet these needs. So this person, because they're anxious, they may struggle to communicate. And because of that struggle, they expect their partner to mind read, to know what's going on up there, And look, you can't expect people to mind read. Listen, I've been studying this psychology stuff for almost 10 years now. I still can't mind read. So if I can't mind read, don't expect your partner to mind read. For real. Anyway, for real. These individuals fear abandonment and are often preoccupied with their relationship, which can lead to jealous, possessive, controlling, or attention-seeking behavior. As a result, these individuals may possess features of codependence and insecurity. Overall, the anxious attachment style involves low levels of avoidance and high levels of anxiety. Yeah, so there's this high level of anxiety that's heightened. And with anxious individuals, you may relate to this, you tend to catastrophize situations. You tend to make them worse in your head, and that heightens your anxiety even more, which leads to you acting in ways that are not healthy for the relationship. You may start accusing your partner of things. You may stonewall your partner. You may be possessive, controlling. You may manipulate in ways to get attention, and it's coming from this sense of maybe unsafety. And again, it's important to communicate this with your partner and for them to hear where you're coming from so that you guys can work on it together. The general attitude with the anxious attachment style is, quote, I want to be extremely emotionally close with others, but others are reluctant to get as close as I would like. I often worry that my partner doesn't love or value me and will abandon me. My inordinate need for closeness scares people away. So you want this closeness, which is great. It's important to have that closeness. But you have to understand that, let's say your love language is physical touch and your partner's love language is quality time primarily. Because you're constantly seeking that reassurance, you may constantly be trying to touch your partner and all of that. And maybe to them, that may feel a bit overwhelming. It doesn't mean they don't love you. It just means that their way of receiving love the best is just quality time. And that quality time may mean sometimes you guys are touching and sometimes you guys aren't touching, you know? But with your anxiety and your heightened level of catastrophizing, you may interpret that as lack of love. That's why communication is important, so that we don't make these assumptions about how our partner is feeling. You know, and with this heightened alertness that goes on in your relationship, this anxiety leads to you kind of resting your self-worth on how much love you're getting. Because again, you gotta love yourself, you know, because if you don't love yourself, you're going to equate your value to how much love your partner is giving you. You know, whether or not you guys did this for your relationship or that for your relationship. Or you might find yourself comparing yourself to what you see on Instagram or other couples or your friends and whatnot. Quote, anxious individuals tend to harbor negative self-views and guarded but hopeful views of their romantic partners. These conflicted perceptions lead anxious individuals to question their worth, worry about losing their partners, and remain vigilant to signs their partners might be pulling away from them. Thus, they are motivated to increase their deficient sense of felt security, which leads them to act in ways that sometimes smother or drive their partners away. Because anxious persons do not know whether they can count on their partners, their working models amplify distress, making them feel even less secure. And here's an interesting quote between the anxious and avoidant dynamic in a relationship, like an anxious person and an avoidant person. Quote, when highly anxious individuals discuss major or minor conflict topics that could destabilize their relationship, they report more distress, display more dysfunctional behaviors, and view their partners and relationships more negatively. Less anxious people show the reverse patterns. Importantly, however, these effects are substantially diminished when the partners of highly anxious people report being more committed to the relationship. And that's a good thing you can remember. If you're with someone that has more of an anxious attachment style, depending on how they receive love or what their love language is, you can reassure them that, you know, you're really here for them. Like, you care about them, you want to be with them. Not to say that you need to do this constantly, because this is still their journey to work on. But what you can do is, let's say their love language is words of affirmation. You tell them things like, I love you, I'm here for you, I'm here to support you, I'm listening. Even when I'm away, I am with you, I'm thinking about, like, these types of things. If their love language is quality time, you know, you spend quality time with them. Their love language is physical touch, you hold them to show that, to remind them, you know, how much you care. And that's what I do with my girlfriend. Like, I make sure, like, my love language is physical touch, but she loves that reassurance, you know. Not that she needs it constantly, but it's still nice for her to receive that. And she lets me know of that. Okay, how to heal your anxious attachment. Let's get into it. Here's my list. Firstly, work on your abandonment issues. Make sure you're seeing examples of people not abandoning you, people not leaving you when you express yourself. Even if you're very sad and you're expressing yourself, even if you're crying like crazy when you're expressing yourself, even if you're having a mental breakdown in expressing yourself, if you have friends, family, or a significant other that they've seen you at your worst and you're communicating at your worst and they're still there for you, that is not abandonment. That is someone that is there. So, like, make sure your brain is mentally focusing on that and not forgetting that. Next one is be conscious of your spiraling or going on worst case scenarios. You know, like, be conscious of that. Notice yourself projecting into the future. Notice yourself saying, oh, this is happening again from my past relationship. Notice yourself just stacking these worst case scenarios that heightens your anxiety and makes it worse. Avoid the spiraling. Do deep breathing. Remember the instances where your partner reassured you and they followed through on that reassurance. Another one is understand that you're already whole and complete. And this is so important for relationships. I always say that the best relationships are when two people that are whole come together. Again, that does not mean that you have to wait till you're in this 100% in the secure category to get into a relationship. A relationship can help you become more secure. It's just that you remind yourself that you are not the relationship. You are you. They are them. The relationship is both of you. And that's to say that you have a life outside of your relationship. I don't care if you guys are married with 17 kids and a farm and whatnot. You still have your own life. And like, people need to stop being like, oh, I just had a couple kids, just got married. My life is kind of over. Like, I'm settled down. Like, that type of energy. It's so like defeatist and like, almost like, oh, I have a family now, I can't do the things I want to do. Of course you can. You just have to get creative with it. You just have to schedule your time better. You just have to move things around, you know? Like, it's just ridiculous when I hear that stuff. So understand that you are whole. You're complete already. You know, you are born complete, you die complete. Nobody completes you. Sometimes it can feel like your partner's completing you because they help you on this journey of bettering yourself, or you feel this sense of love for being with them. But like, that level of love is still coming from within you. But you're projecting that love outwards. You could have so much love for self. You have to remember that. There's people out there, they've forgotten about this romantic love for a human. They have love for like the universe or themselves. It's that same level of love, it's just in a different form. Some people have insane amounts of love for their pets. So like, love shows up in many different forms, and we are complete. But I can't just tell you this, you have to experience what wholeness feels like. That's why I recommend spiritual practices like meditation. Meditations, especially with the heart energy center, the heart chakra, are so powerful in you feeling whole within, feeling complete already. So that you don't go into relationships with this needy energy. You don't even go into other domains of life with this needy energy, whether it's business or it's your corporate job or your friendships. Just, you know, when you feel whole within, feel complete within already, your neediness goes away. You still have the want, but you don't have the neediness. And that's very attractive, actually. That's a very, that pulls people in a lot. You don't need anything out of them. You want things out of them, but you don't need anything out of them. Another one is do more things independently. Do more things by yourself. Go to dinner by yourself. Go to a movie by yourself. Just to reinforce the fact that I can spend time by myself. I don't need to be around people to see my value. I don't need to be around people to be entertained. I don't need to be around people to feel love. That's what that's all about. When you do this, especially when you do the feeling complete within and you feel independently, it compounds into like having an abundance mindset. And that is another thing that will really help you be less anxious. This abundance mindset is so powerful because you become this person that's like, I love this person. I really value them. If for whatever reason things don't work out, I'll be really hurt. But I know that I'll be okay. Whether I am by myself for a long time or I find somebody else, I'm going to be okay. And that's such a powerful thing. That's such an abundant mindset. Be aware of your cognitive distortions in your relationships. I'm going to list a couple that anxious people struggle with. The cognitive distortions of jumping to conclusions, catastrophizing, magnification, emotional reasoning, disqualifying the positive, mind reading, fortune telling, overgeneralization, and black and white thinking, aka splitting. Now, I just listed a bunch of words. I could break them down, but that's just going to make this video longer. So what I suggest to you is you go to the description box. I'm going to have a link to a page that breaks down these cognitive distortions, or you can just Google it. I mean, you have a smartphone, you probably have a computer, you could probably just Google it to help you understand your cognitive distortions. Another one is let go of control. So if you struggle with control, there's a high chance that you can be very anxious in relationships because you're always trying to control an outcome. It's important to learn that you can't control everything. That's why I talked about in my video how to stop living in reaction mode. So understand you can't control everything. You can't control the level at which your partner loves you. You can influence it, you can't control it. You can't control whether or not somebody texts you back. I know some of you spiritual folks are like, Ashley, Jem, yes you can manifest it, and I'm sure you can, but you get my idea. Let people be their own authority. And like, I understand the whole how to get your ex back, how to manifest your ex back. Like, I get it. And I know situations are different, you know, things happen different. But there's some cases where you don't want to do that at all. It's actually best for you not to manifest your ex back, actually. It's actually best for you to move forward. And I get there's some instances where things ended in ways that it didn't need to. And hey, you know, look into those practices. That can be very cool. But like, I just wanted to say that. Like, some of you don't need to be manifesting your ex back. Some of you need to block that number. Some of you need to block them on social or unfollow, whatever you need to do. So there's that. Next one for anxious folks, reframe rejection. So because you have the cognitive distortion of catastrophizing or emotional reasoning or disqualifying the positive even, you may struggle with reframing rejection, or you may view rejection as like the worst thing ever. But rejection can be redirection. Rejection can give you so many insights about that person or yourself, or insights about your assumptions. Rejection isn't always bad. Watch my video on how to handle rejection for more on that after this video. Another one is nervous system regulation. You need to learn to have a calm body. Anxious types not only have a chaotic mind maybe, but they have a chaotic body. You need to soothe the body. Are you doing deep breathing exercises? Like pranayama, for example. Are you stretching the body? Are you relaxing your muscles? Are you exercising? Like, if your body feels safe, it's going to be easier for you to communicate your needs. It's going to be easier for you to not jump to conclusions as much, not make the worst assumptions. So learn to relax the body, both in the moment and as a habitual practice. Next one, your value isn't based on who you're with or how well you serve them. Because anxious types, because they seek validation, they base their value on how well they serve, the other person. You could think of the traditional trad wife. Her value is based on how happy her husband is. But what if her husband is an asshole? Like, her value is based on his emotional whims and whatnot. And vice versa. Some of you guys out there, you're simps for the girl you like. So you base your value on being with her, or this trophy wife thing, or the fact that she smiled at you or kissed you or whatever. Like, have respect for yourself. That's not where your value is based off, especially when you understand that you're whole as a person. Next one, understand how you manipulate to get love. What do you do to get love? Like, do you yell at your partner? Do you start fights in order to get attention? Do you do this toxic stuff? Understand that you're manipulating to get love. Why do I need to manipulate like this to get love? What if I could get love in a very natural way, in a very easy way? What if I can communicate to my partner that I like to receive love this way in a healthy communication, and they listen? What if my partner isn't listening as well because I resort to yelling and shouting and they shut down because of that? What if that's the problem? Next one, consider more factors when someone doesn't get back to you. So if you have texting anxiety, consider more factors as to why they're not getting back to you. Maybe their phone died. Maybe they're literally napping. I know some of you maybe have felt embarrassed once because you got all riled up because someone you were dating wasn't texting back, especially in the early stages. And it just turns out they fell asleep. And then you're like, oh man, the last 6 hours I've been stressing, but they just fell asleep. It's all good. Don't just move on from that. Stop and think. Wow, why did I get so triggered by that? Like, investigate that so that so that 2 weeks later, when they fall asleep again, you're not doing the same thing and doing the same pattern where you're catastrophizing. Next is my avoidant types. I have experience with the avoidance, the avoidant attachment style. Let's talk about it. As its name suggests, the attachment style involves caregivers who are distant, detached, or disregarded the child's needs. In response, the child assumes their needs will not be met and often gives up trying to express their needs. As adults, these individuals pride themselves on being extremely independent and act this way to avoid potential rejection or perception of being weak. Individuals with this style are uncomfortable with closeness and do not trust others easily. These individuals are emotionally distant, not only uncomfortable with expressing their own needs, but also dismissive or unresponsive to the needs of significant others Overall, the avoidant attachment style involves high levels of avoidance and low levels of anxiety. Yeah, that's very true. And some of the things I listed, you may relate to, and some things you may not. You know, avoidant people are not all made the same. Some people are highly avoidant, others are kind of in the middle. Some are like very lowly avoidant. So like some of these things I can personally relate to in my past and present. And in some of these, I'm like, no, that doesn't really, you know, fit the bill. Like for example, I am not emotionally distant in my in the past. I have never been emotionally distant, and now I'm not even close to emotionally distant. But some of these other things, like not wanting to be perceived as weak or not trusting others easily, that's definitely the case with me. The general attitude with avoidant is I am uncomfortable being close to others. I find it difficult to trust and depend on others and prefer that others do not depend on me. It's very important that I feel independent and self-sufficient. My partner wants me to be more intimate than I am comfortable being. So you find that these avoidant types are basically the opposite of the anxious types. And you can find that this will lead to a lot of communication being required between the two parties if they're both in a relationship, because just the way they interpret events can be so different. So the more someone tries to get close to you or the needier your partner becomes, the more you tend to withdraw. You're uncomfortable with your emotions a lot often, and your partners often accuse you of being distant or closed off, rigid or intolerant. In return, you accuse them of being too needy. You're prone to minimize or disregard your partner's feelings. You keep secrets from them or engage in things that help you regain your sense of freedom. You may prefer fleeting, casual relationships to long-term, intimate ones, or you seek out partners who are equally independent ones who will keep their distance emotionally. While you may think you don't need close relationships or intimacy, the truth is we all do. Humans are hardwired for connection, and deep down, even someone with an avoidant dismissive attachment style wants a close, meaningful relationship. If only they could overcome their deep-seated fears of intimacy. Absolutely. And just because you want close, intimate relationships doesn't mean that you don't still value your independence. You can have both. I'm in a close, intimate relationship, but I still have time for my independence. I communicate that because that falls under my value. You know, both are the case. I have friends I'm close with, and I lean on them when I need their help for things. I ask when I need help. I've gotten so much better at that. I am so proud of myself for that. I've healed those things within me, but at the same time, I still keep that sense of I value this independence. I value this problem solving by myself. I still keep that. And I'm kind of in this more balanced headspace. And that's what makes me more on the secure pool now than in the past. It's because I've gotten so much better at asking for help. So the independence and the asking for help has led to me appreciating my connections even more, and while still strengthening my independence and my Sigma grind set. Okay, so how to heal the avoidant attachment style. First, work on your abandonment issues. In the past, maybe you've dealt with people neglecting you emotionally or neglecting you physically. Maybe you were adopted. Maybe you were ridiculed for sharing your needs, so you shut down. Okay, that's all a form of abandonment. Realize that and understand there are people in your life or people you'll meet at some point that won't abandon you in the same way. That won't abandon you. And it'll be safe communicating your needs to them. There's a myriad of other things that you could do to heal your abandonment issues. If you need help on this one-to-one, I'm like the perfect person to talk to because I have first-hand experience of the avoidant attachment style. But like seek help of some kind. So that you get down to the brass tacks nuances of your abandonment issues. Next one, trust the right people. Obviously, not everyone can be trusted in the same level, but find safety in the right people. So what close friends can you open up to more about your struggles? What close, hell, we have AI nowadays. Maybe you start with AI. Maybe AI is your safest companion to open up to. Do that. Talk to AI about your struggles, your emotional fears. That gives you practice. You get used to that, and then now you can talk to humans about your fears and your emotions and whatnot. In fact, AI can be helpful because it could help you identify what you're feeling. Use resources that helps you identify your emotions. With my identity resonance clients and monthly coaching clients, I recommend the emotions, the feelings wheel. It's so powerful. There's a lot of things you can do to get more clear and get more aware of what you're feeling, because avoidant types engage in self-deception because they convince themselves that they're not feeling anything, but really they've just repressed and pushed it down. If you stop that practice of repression, sometimes it's automatic, but like if you can stop that practice of repressing, you can feel your emotions more. And you can feel the humanness of things. Phone call, I'll be right back. Okay, back from the phone call. Next one, forgive people in your past and forgive yourself. So if you made past mistakes in previous relationships that have hurt, that have led to you being hurt, or someone else made past mistakes, forgive. Forgiveness doesn't even mean that you need to tell that person you forgive them. Just forgive them in your mind, because it's about you healing yourself at the end of the day. They don't need to know that you forgave them. If you had a parent that wasn't the best parent, you don't need to let them know that you forgave them. Forgive them in your mind. Maybe your parent's so toxic that if you tell them that you forgave them, they're going to be like, what are you talking about? They're going to be like, you're the problem. I'm not the problem. Like, maybe it's that whole thing. That's okay. Just forgive them in your mind. Like, genuinely. And this may take time. This isn't something you just say once and then it's a snap of a finger. You forgive them. Like, it may take some time, but that'll help you a lot. Another one is resist the urge to push people away. This is a tendency a lot of avoidant people do. I've experienced this where I'm like, oh, no, this person's got to go. Like, it's this almost instantaneous protection mechanism you do to avoid closeness or to avoid communication. And that's not healthy. If you want a healthy relationships, romantic or not, you need to be like, okay, I have a conflict with this person. I have a problem going on with this person. My instinct is to push them away. My intuition is telling them push them away, but my intuition is probably wrong in this instance because I'm operating at this level of consciousness, right? Of avoidance. So what I need to do is I need to go towards it and I need to communicate. You'll learn just how often you do that. How often you quote unquote, fall under that headspace of I'll cut somebody off for any reason. And this is for you, I'll cut anybody off crowd. A lot of you just have avoidance wounds. A lot of you have these wounds and you don't want to address them, so you try to do this like power move of I cut anybody off. But truly, a part of you probably doesn't want to cut people off. You just want to be understood while, maybe maintaining your independence and while still feeling loved and being in a loving bond or connection. So you have to admit that, like, you're actually not someone that wants to cut everybody off. You're actually someone that wants to feel love and express love. You just don't know how to. And when conflict arises, you don't know how to deal with conflict, so you try to run away. Next one, please fixate on instances when people did help you, when people were there for you. I said this on a call to someone, if you're watching this, you know who you are, where she struggled with asking for help because she felt like no one would help her. But like, I told her to list instances when people did help her and she was able to do that. And then I'm like, focus on those instances and watch how you feel about how others can help. It's just that the brain, because you have an avoidant attachment style, what happens is that your RAS focuses on instances that confirm your beliefs. So you focus on instances when someone wasn't able to help instead of instances when someone was able to help. So that's your confirmation bias if you're an avoidant type. What about when they did help? What about when people were there for you? Fixate on that, focus on that. That's how you start healing this. Next one, some people are better at things than you are. Let them help you. That's like another mini thing to the thing that I just talked about. Cognitive distortions that avoidant types experience: jumping to conclusions, magnification, emotional reasoning, mind reading, fortune telling, overgeneralization, black and white thinking, splitting. Again, go to the description box for that after this video, or just Google search it and whatnot. Continuing on. For avoidant types, your value isn't based on whether you figured things out yourself or not. And this kind of piggybacks on asking for help. A lot of avoidant types pride themselves on being very independent and figuring things out by themselves. But like relationships, human relationships are here to facilitate, like we're here to facilitate and help each other. So there are strengths and weaknesses we hold. And there are weaknesses you have that someone in your life, whether a friend, coworker, business partner, family member, significant other, they may be really good at that weakness of yours and they can help you. So let them help. Let yourself admit that you need that help or you have that weakness. Another one for avoidant types is accept your emotions, don't bury them. Emotions are just signposts. You're not a weak person for experiencing emotions. So for you guys out there, you don't need to go to another alpha male boot camp to just repress your emotions more, okay? Accept your emotions, they're very important. You know, ladies, you don't need to do another goddess workshop or a queen goddess workshop. That'll just lead to you, you know, burying your emotions, you know? Like guys, some of these people on YouTube will try to convince you that, you know, you're the main character and you are the main character of your life, but it's said in this way where you're like better than everybody else, or it's said in a way that's very egotistical. Like, come on now. I'm all for seeing your value. I see my value. But at the same time, don't let this seeing your value lead to you just like burying certain emotions that you hold. You know, like sometimes you need reassurance of things. You could see your value a lot, but still need some reassurance. It's okay, it's safe. You know, so for you alpha males out there and you goddess queens, like remember that. Another one for avoidant types is communicate your emotional states. And this is something I think I've done a good job with in my relationship, is reminding my girlfriend that sometimes when I seem super neutral or I seem almost emotionless, it's just like a headspace I get into. It's not that I'm not interested in the conversation even. It's just that and plus I do a lot of meditation. So I sometimes just get in these modes where I'm almost hard to read. And I have to remind her that like, it's just like a shift in my state. Or like sometimes I'm working a lot on a given day. And when I work, I get in a very logical headspace. I become very left brain. And when I become very left brain, let's say I stop working, there becomes this gap where I go from more left brain dominant to more right brain dominant, and I'm more of a right brain person, but it becomes gradual. So after I work, I may talk to my girlfriend, or we may like go out somewhere, maybe I'm driving somewhere and we're talking, and like I'm either interpreting everything she says very logically, or I am just very neutral. Like I'm not super emotive. I make sure to remind her that I just got done working. So like I'm just coming out of this logical headspace and she understands from there. So this is the self-awareness I'm talking about with avoidant types too, is communicate these different states that you're in. Sometimes you feel a little overwhelmed or overstimulated and you need time by yourself, and you tell your partner that. Or you might get a little quiet because you're getting overstimulated at a social event or a party. Tell them that, like, hey, I'm going to step out for a bit. I'm feeling a little overstimulated, you know? Or you just do it and then you text your partner, hey, I had to step out a bit because I'm feeling a little overstimulated. I'm okay, I'm good. My nervous system just needs some peace, you know? That type of thing. And then of course, you know, when you communicate your needs, listen to your partner's needs as well. If your partner's attachment style is different, you're going to have to adjust to how their attachment style is, just like how they're adjusting to yours as you guys work on becoming more secure. All right, disorganized, let's get into it. Disorganized attachment style, also referred to as fearful avoidant attachment style, stems from intense fear as a result of childhood trauma, neglect, or abuse. Adults with this style of insecure attachment tend to feel they don't deserve love or closeness in a relationship. If you have a disorganized attachment style, you likely never learn to soothe your emotions, so both relationships and the world around you can feel frightening and unsafe. If you experience abuse as a child, you may try to replicate the same abusive patterns of behavior as an adult. With disorganized folks, they kind of have this push and pull kind of attitude towards relationships. On one hand, they really want to be close with their partner. They really want to be loved. On the other hand, they want to push the partner away because they feel like they'll be abandoned, or there's some unsafetyness with being with this person, even if this person is perfect for them. You probably find intimate relationships confusing and unsettling, often swinging between emotional extremes of love and hate for a partner. You may be insensitive towards your partner, selfish, controlling, and untrusting, which can lead to explosive or even abusive behavior. And you can be just as hard on yourself as you are on others. You may exhibit antisocial or negative behavior patterns, abuse alcohol or drugs, or prone to aggression or violence. Others may despair at your refusal to take responsibility for your actions. Just like the anxious types, disorganized folks may also manipulate to get love. They may say all sorts of things so that their partner becomes close to them again, even after a fight or an argument. And I mean, there's people out there in these types of dynamics, and it can go on for years. If you're disorganized like this, I feel like out of all the insecure attachment types, these types are the most likely to be unaware of their disorganized attachment, because you can see patterns of externalizing blame a lot. Whereas anxious types typically do know that they're anxious. Avoidant types do know more that they're avoidant. Disorganized types, they just seem like, in my opinion, they seem like they're more likely to be in denial. So if you find yourself that you're in denial of your push and pull, behavior, it could be a sign that you are definitely disorganized. If your primary caregiver was dealing with unresolved trauma themselves, it can lead to the intense fear associated with a disorganized, disoriented attachment style. Often the parent acted as both a source of fear and comfort for you as an infant, triggering the confusion and disorientation you feel about relationships now. In other cases, your parental figure may have ignored or overlooked your needs as an infant, or their erratic, chaotic behavior could have been frightening or traumatizing to you. That's a really good quote. We often mimic our parents, and when your parent showed love sometimes and then didn't show love sometimes, you learn that this is how love works. This is how love operates. In some cases, maybe this inconsistency in your parent was a result of them maybe abusing alcohol or abusing drugs, or maybe them just being very hard to read. Like 1 minute they're like happy and smiling, and another minute they snap, and that can make you feel very unsafe. You could even be talking to your partner and they're showing all this love to you, but you're like subconsciously anticipating them snapping at you, because that's what a caregiver did back in the day. So because of that unsafety, you like have this uneasiness towards them. So you're obligated to snap first, because you're like almost protecting yourself against something that's not even coming. You're really protecting yourself of something from the past. So how do we heal the disorganized attachment style? One way is to put your history in context. So put your parents into context. What I do with people when I work with them is I make sure that they humanize their parents or their caregivers as much as possible. Because it's very easy for us to just call our caregivers mom or dad. And we almost forget that this is a person that was once a child themselves. This is a person that was a teenager at one point. This is a person that was a young adult at some point. And this person naturally had traumas themselves that has led to them being how they are. So your job, although it wasn't your fault that your parent treated you like this, it's your responsibility to not project those things onto your partner and negatively affect your relationship as a result. This work is about responsibility. It's not about necessarily blaming you. It's about responsibility. Because you can't control how your parents raised you per se, but when you become old enough to take care of yourself, it's your turn to take responsibility for what is. If you're not willing to do that, don't be surprised if you find yourself in the same problematic situations a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. That's just the reality of this. And again, I'm all for you guys also sharing your stories. I love reading your stories about what you guys have gone through. I think sharing your story in and of itself can be healing, but I also want you guys to be solution oriented. That's what's going to help you. If you share your story in the comment section, definitely do that. I invite you to do so. But also share how you're going to resolve it. Also share what things from this video you're going to take and implement today, so that 6 months from now, a year from now, you're a completely different person. Your psyche is different. Your nervous system is different. And as a result, your life is different. Maybe your relationship is healthier, or you find someone that's better for you because of that. Next one for this disorganized folks, heal your abandonment wounds. Kind of just going back to what I just talked about with the previous categories. Who are the people in your life that haven't abandoned you, that are there for you? You want to think about those people. You want to focus and magnify that. What does your life look like when you are more secure? And who are those people that are still there for you? Another one, let go of control. You cannot control people. And maybe a part of you wants to control your partner or the person you're dating because you want to get a sense of love. But it doesn't work that way. You have to be chosen by that person. And when you have love within, you're going to be more okay with not being in control so much, with not trying to control them so much. Another one, build self-awareness of your triggers, you know? When you get triggered, notice it. Feel the rage in your body, feel the sadness, and before lashing out, calm down. And then communicate your needs. Or if you can't communicate at that moment, just do self-regulation practices. That way you don't say something you don't mean. Also, let's say you got into a fight with your significant other. Take responsibility of how you behaved beforehand. So I don't want you to just like be like, oh, I was just in a bad mood that day. Oh, I was triggered by this at work, or no, I get that, right? Say that, but say I was wrong for that. I didn't mean to do that. Like, I'm sorry. Because some people, they act toxically and then they just want to move on from it. And they don't claim responsibility. They don't want to learn from that instance. Some cognitive distortions that disorganized attachments face is jumping to conclusions, catastrophizing, magnification, emotional reasoning, disqualifying the positive, mind reading, fortune telling, overgeneralization, and black and white thinking. And again, like with these other attachment styles, understand that some of these cognitive distortions you do and some of them you don't. I'm just talking in generality here. Next one, reframe rejection. Just like with anxious attachment styles, don't jump to a conclusion so fast about a rejection you get, or when you feel rejected. Like if your love language is words of affirmation and your partner isn't affirming you and you feel rejected because of that, don't just jump to that conclusion so fast. Like a lot of this game of healing our attachment styles is self-awareness. It's stopping ourselves from doing those immediate reactions, those immediate responses, and choosing a different response. And when we regulate the body and we are aware of our thoughts, this process becomes so much easier. It gets to a point where it becomes so subconscious that you don't need as much conscious effort. But first, conscious effort is required. Another one is take risk and trust. Meaning, if you struggle with trust as a disorganized type, do it anyways. Feel the fear and do it anyways. I love that quote because it's courage. You have to have courage. If you want your ideal relationship or you want to heal this attachment style, you have to have courage. This goes for all attachment styles. Even with secure attachment, like to maintain that secure attachment, you still need courage because you'll feel fear, but you still need to communicate your needs. You still need to communicate what you're feeling and those fears. So courage is the word to remember with healing. If you forget everything in this video, just be like courage, courage, courage. Repeat the word courage a bunch of times. Another one, and this is a cognitive distortion, avoid catastrophizing or emotional reason or emotional extremes, or black and white thinking. Like, again, awareness of noticing when you're catastrophizing or making the worst case scenario and choosing something different. I would also say forgive your past. If your parents have led to you being more disorganized, again, you don't have to do this today, but like think of forgiving them as a way of healing. Communicating your needs is like the biggest thesis of this video. But the thing that stops people from communicating is safety. It's not necessarily they don't know what to say. It's the fact that they don't feel safe saying it. So you need to cultivate safety within, relaxed body, relaxed mind, and safety in relationship. And ironically, that require communication. So start cultivating safety with people that are very trustworthy. So when it comes to romantic relationships, you feel safe. You have the reference experience of feeling safe in communicating things. I don't care how embarrassing it is. I don't care how scary, whatever. You feel that safety. You're like, this person loves me. This person's here for me. They're going to listen to me. They're not going to leave me if I tell them this. They're not going to leave me if I ask them this. I'm going to visualize a future where we're happy together. And this is after the fact that I've told them this thing. And that's going to help you so much. Visualization in that way will help you so much with communicating. It's all about safety. And when you do the things mentioned in this video, you're going to be able to, well, heal your attachment style.